a prestigious American university, a room missing from every blueprint. The door was welded shut from the outside. No handle, no hinges, no way out. When opened, they found claw marks, a restraint chair, and whispers in the night. This is not a ghost story. This is a real room, once erased from campus records. The sealed file. A true story about a room that was locked forever beneath a college dormitory. This is not a ghost story. This is a real room. A documented incident, sealed by the university, erased from all official campus records. In 2014, at a private university over 160 years old located in the state of Ohio, USA, a maintenance team working inside a girls' dormitory discovered a sub-basement room not found in any official architectural plans. The space lay more than 2.5 meters beneath the main basement, a level no building blueprint from 1955 onward ever acknowledged. Initially, the technicians believed it to be an abandoned wine cellar or old storage space. But upon approach, they encountered a thick iron door sealed shut from the outside with rusted steel plates. There was no handle, no hinges visible, and absolutely no escape route from within. From that moment on, a series of disturbing events began to unfold, and when historical documents were unearthed, investigators realized this wasn't the first time the room had caused fear. In October 2014, the hot water system of Rosewell Hall, a freshman-only girls' dorm, started leaking. A technical crew was dispatched to investigate. Using a fiber optic scope, they stumbled upon a void beneath the floor not listed on any structural map. Curiosity overtook caution. As they drilled deeper, they struck a metal surface. Dust cleared and rust emerged. They realized they weren't looking at a wall. They had found a door no one remembered. The team lead, Ray Marshall, halted all work and reported the discovery. But before leaving, one worker discreetly recorded a short video on his phone that in the footage as a flashlight shone through the narrow gap between the door and the concrete. Letters written from the inside became visible using a substance that looked like dried blood. Do not open. Not a person. Independent journalist Rebecca Lindley, a specialist in bizarre university lore, caught wind of the leaked footage and began digging. Through archived city records, she uncovered a buried fact. The Rosewell dorm had been built over the ruins of a former women's sanatorium, which operated from 1918 to 1942. In the city library, she found a worn journal belonging to a young nurse intern named Margaret Ellis, who had worked there in 1939. One entry stood out. "I'll never forget room 6. Iron door, no windows, no light. They said it was for those beyond help. But I swear, I heard singing in the dark, not a voice like ours." I asked the head nurse. She said, "Don't let it know you're listening. If it knows, it'll sing to you forever." In February 2015, under pressure from media and students, the university authorized a geological survey team, accompanied by city police, to break into the sub-basement room. Once the welding was undone, they found the inner side of the door, scarred with fingernail gouges, smeared with old blood. The air inside was unnaturally cold, like a tomb unopened for decades. The room was about 25 square meters wide, low-ceilinged, and covered in flaking lead paint. At the center stood a wooden chair with leather restraints. Opposite, a shattered mirror, and across the floor, dozens of arcane symbols, spirals, inverted triangles, glyphs, drawn in charcoal and blood. There was no body, no file, only the presence of something that had once been there, and perhaps had never left. Environmental sensors were placed inside the room for 72 hours. The recordings, mostly locked away by the university, had one leaked clip, unidentified whispers, possibly non-human language, at 3:17 a.m. Camera freeze for 16 minutes with no power interruption. Final audio contained voice. "I'm still here. Someone opened the door again." The official conclusion? No evidence of a living entity found inside. Yet a night security officer later wrote anonymously on a forum, "Ever since that room was opened, I keep hearing a chair drag across stone at 3 a.m. No one believes me." In April 2015, the university ordered the sub-basement permanently sealed. A thick layer of concrete was poured, and the metal door welded shut once more. The basement area was labeled Restricted Technical Access. From then on, all mentions of the room vanished from maps and websites. But students still whisper that late at night, near the first-floor laundry room, you can hear a chair being scraped across a stone floor, even though no one lives below anymore. What's most terrifying isn't that a ghost might exist. It's that a real room once imprisoned someone, or something, like an animal, and then was sealed shut by the living, with no records, no justice. Who was locked there? What did they do? Or worse, what were they? Why was it necessary to seal them away? And why, even now, do sounds still echo from below? This isn't a campfire story. It's a real sealed file, forgotten in the heart of America. Mystery File: The Last Call from the Lighthouse. A lighthouse in the middle of the sea, 3 season keepers, and a disappearance that left no trace. No screams, no blood, just an unfinished meal and a light that stayed on through Christmas night. This is not a ghost story. This is a real case from 1900, and it's never been solved. A true disappearance that has never been explained. Flannan Isles, 1900. This is not fiction. What you're about to read is based entirely on a real case recorded in 1900, investigated by the British Navy, and archived in official maritime records. The disappearance of 3 lighthouse keepers from the remote Flannan Isles off the coast of Scotland remains one of the most chilling and unsolved maritime mysteries of the 20th century. Every event and clue described below is drawn from documented evidence, eyewitness testimony, and historical sources. This version has been reconstructed in a narrative form to reflect the horror of silence and the fear of not knowing. The Flannan Isles sit far off the northwest coast of Scotland, a remote chain of craggy rocks, often battered by waves reaching 60 feet high and winds that can peel paint off stone. That no one lives there. No one stays long. And in 1899, a lighthouse, was built on Eilean Moor, the largest of the Isles, to guide ships away from deadly reefs to keep the light running. A three-man team of seasoned lighthouse keepers was stationed there. Thomas Marshall, 28, the principal technician; James Duckett, 43, the head keeper; Donald MacArthur, 40, an experienced seaman temporarily filling in. They were trained, rational, disciplined. But by the end of December 1900, all three would vanish without a trace. On December 15, 1900, the SS Archdor reported something unusual. The Flannan light had not shone the previous night. That was cause for serious concern, but storms made it impossible to dispatch an investigation vessel. Not until December 26 did the supply ship Hesperus reach the Isles. Captain James Harvey and assistant keeper Joseph Moore rowed ashore and immediately sensed something was wrong. No one greeted them. NO flag was raised. NO smoke from the chimney. NO signal from the lighthouse. They reached the tower and found the main door locked from the inside. Using the spare key, they entered into a room that felt freshly abandoned. Inside the lighthouse, the dining table was fully set with cold food. One oilskin coat was still hanging on the hook. The logbook lay open, pen resting beside it. The wall clock had stopped at 1:20. Strangely, the oil lamp had been refueled and maintained. There were no signs of distress, no overturned furniture, no blood, no signs of a struggle. No clues, only emptiness. 3 men were missing, with no sign of where or how they had gone. Joseph Moore examined the logbook entries. The last few days revealed growing unease. Deck 12, gale force winds. James silent. Thomas praying. December 13th, heard howling all night. Knocking sounds from cliffside. December 14th, clear skies. But the air feels wrong. Donald wept after shouting. December 15th, wind rising again. Door rattling. Saw a strange green light at sea. There was no entry after that. These were not the words of frightened amateurs. These were trained professionals. Donald MacArthur, in particular, was known for his composure. A former soldier who had seen worse. What could have broken them? The official investigation concluded the keepers were likely swept away by a rogue wave while attempting to secure equipment. But that explanation had serious holes. Why was one coat left behind in the freezing cold? Why did no one trigger the alarm system? Why was part of the logbook torn out? Where were the bodies? Fishermen later reported seeing a beam of green light above the Isles on the night of the 15th. Not a flare, not lightning, something else, but nobody listened. A local newspaper ran the headline, "Anger of the Sea," or something else calling. Local folklore soon resurfaced. Some believed Flannan Isles were ancient ritual grounds for Celtic sea worship. According to legend, in the final days before winter solstice, a sky path opened above the Atlantic, and those who heard its call might be taken. Crazy? Perhaps. But no one came back from Flannan to deny it. Even seasoned sailors admitted, there's something wrong with that rock. It watches. Since 1901, the Flannan Lighthouse has been fully automated. No human has lived there since. But every so often, when maintenance teams return, stories emerge. Footsteps in the corridor when no one is there. Equipment turning itself on. A persistent sound of knocking, always near the sea-facing wall. The last man to sleep overnight on the isle, Alex Shaw, brought a recorder. What he captured made him throw the device into the sea. he never spoke of it again. They didn't scream. They didn't leave a message. They just disappeared, and no signs of panic. No escape attempt. Only a table set for a dinner that would never be eaten. If they drowned, why was everything untouched? If they ran, where? And from what? And if they heard a call not from the sea, but from beneath space and time itself, then the lighthouse was not just a beacon, but a threshold. An ancient forest in England, screams in the dead of night, and a series of disappearances that were never solved. Investigators heard whispers, recorders picked up medieval speech, and the spirits of the executed may have never left. This is Deering Wood, a place no one should stay after sundown. Mystery File: The Screams of Deering Wood. One of the most terrifying and mysterious supernatural phenomena in the UK, real, documented. What you are about to hear is not legend, nor a product of imagination. It originates from a series of strange events recorded in England from the 18th century to the present, revolving around a forest known as Deering Wood, commonly referred to by locals as the Whispering Forest or the Screaming Wood. There have been official investigations, press reports, police records, and credible witnesses. All agree on one thing: no one should remain in Deering Wood after sundown. Deering Wood is an ancient forest in Kent, southeastern England. From the outside, it appears no different from any other woodland. Old oaks, ash groves, mossy undergrowth, and narrow dirt trails threading through like string. But as dusk falls, something begins to feel wrong, deeply wrong. The wind in Deering doesn't simply blow, it breathes. The leaves seem to twitch even in still air. Electronic devices, phones, recorders, even digital watches, often glitch, freeze, or drain unexpectedly. Residents near Lenham have repeatedly reported screams coming from the forest, voices of men, women, even children. But when the police arrive, the forest is dead silent, as if no one had ever existed there. On August 1st, 1948, a group of 20 people, men, women, and children, held a picnic near the edge of Deering Wood. According to a sole survivor, around 4 p.m., they heard a girl crying from deep within the woods. Some of them went in to check. The rest were never seen again. When police arrived, only one man remained, frantic, muttering. Something dragged them away. There were no bodies, no blood, no signs of struggle. Only an empty field, a few abandoned picnic blankets, and the wind, whispering their names. The incident was classified as unexplained disappearance and quietly closed after just 3 weeks, with no answers. Since the 1960s, Deering Wood has become a popular destination for paranormal investigators. Some researchers from Cambridge University even attempted to camp overnight. The result: 4 out of 5 had to be hospitalized for acute psychological distress. Recordings captured continuous whispering in what appeared to be archaic English, similar to Middle English, interspersed with screaming and laughter. One clip features a woman's voice. "Help me. I'm still here. I never left the forest," followed by a man's low growl. They belong here now. No source of the sounds was found, but the recorder was later shattered when one researcher reportedly suddenly snapped, smashed all the equipment, and cried nonstop for 3 hours. According to local records, in the 18th century, Deering Wood was used for executions of suspected witches and heretics. Most of the hangings were conducted secretly within the forest. Folklore says at least 11 people, including a 9-year-old boy, were falsely accused and buried beneath the trees without any funeral rites. It is believed their spirits were never set free. The screams, whispers, and eerie laughter heard at night are thought to be from those who never left. Common reported phenomena include footsteps circling tents at night, dark shadows darting across the forest edge, the persistent sensation of being watched, sudden gusts of wind whenever someone's name is spoken. Kent police records show at least 12 missing persons reports in the Deering Wood area between 1972 and 1998. Most involved hikers, photographers, or illegal campers. Notable cases: a young man named Greg Thompson, 1983, was found after 2 days. His hair turned white, unable to recall anything except one sentence: "They are not human." A rescue worker named Carol M. described, "I heard someone call my name from inside the woods, but my team swore no one had said a word. After that, I got lost for 15 minutes even though my GPS still showed I hadn't moved." Kent police posted warning signs against night entry, but they were always torn down. In 2014, a British YouTuber named Ethan Woodhouse filmed a challenge video, sleeping overnight in Deering Wood. The video was never completed. Only the first 8 minutes were uploaded before all signal was lost. In the final seconds, the camera blurred, lights flickered, and someone screamed, "Get out! They are not gone." Ethan was found unconscious near the forest edge the next morning. Doctors diagnosed him with psychological shock. He did not respond to speech for 3 days. When he recovered, Ethan said he would never return, and his entire YouTube channel was deleted shortly after. Deering Wood remains open to the public to this day. No fences, no guards, but locals still warn visitors: don't call anyone's name after sunset. Stay past 7 p.m. and under no circumstances enter if you hear crying. Many believe Deering Wood is a fracture in reality, where time, space, and spirit blur, and sometimes what you hear was never meant for you to hear. Maybe science hasn't caught up, but some places are not meant to be entered. Some cries are not meant to be heard, and some spirits never left. An abandoned cemetery, forgotten since the 1960s. No visitors, no power, but at exactly 2:13 a.m. each night, a distress signal is broadcast: SOS, cold, room 47. Science has no answers. Police couldn't locate the source, and the name Richard Kenner, missing since 1963, has returned from beneath the ground. Mystery File: Distress Signal from an Abandoned Cemetery. This story is based on a series of real events that took place in the state of Nebraska, USA, from 2004 to 2007. Although official agencies have concluded their investigations, To this day, scientists and engineers are still unable to fully explain the origin of the repeated distress signals broadcast from a cemetery that had been abandoned for more than 40 years. About 18 miles west of the town of Broken Bow, in a semi-desert area, lies an old, unnamed cemetery, marked in cadastral records only as Plot 47C. No signage, no fencing, just a few stone slabs eroded by the wind, precariously standing. On a bed of dry grass, since 1968, the site has been out of use, with all burial documentation transferred to the city center. Archived records indicate approximately 112 graves are here, mostly belonging to victims of the Spanish flu and a number of early 20th century coal mining accidents. No one in the area sets foot on the site, except for a few elderly locals who remember it as a place best avoided after dusk. In June 2004, Nebraska's Regional Radio Control Station number 17 received a strange series of signals on frequency 146.520 MHz, an emergency frequency for amateur ham radio stations. The transmission was weak and intermittent, like Morse code, repeating 5 words hesitant-faced O.S. cold, help, room 47 for 5 consecutive nights. The signal was broadcast at 2:13 a.m., lasting about 1 minute, then disappearing completely. Operators checked the equipment and locations. After many nights adjusting antenna directions, they pinpointed the signal's source exactly at Plot 47. See the strangest part? That area had no electricity, no transmission towers, and no one living within a 5-mile radius. The Custer County Sheriff's Department was dispatched to investigate. On June 21, 2004, a team of 3 officers, 1 radio technician, and 1 land surveyor entered the cemetery at the scene. No transmitting devices were found, no recent human presence, and no tire tracks, no trampled grass. However, exactly at the center of the cemetery, they discovered a small circular hole about 40 centimeters in diameter, nearly 1 meter deep. Inside were charred copper wire fragments and a broken circuit board. Subsequent analysis showed this was not a standard transmitter, but a DIY-type device, manually assembled using components from the 1960s. That after the investigation, team withdrew. That night, the signal resumed. Still the same hesitant face. O.S. cold, room, help, 47. A group of radio engineering students from the University of Nebraska, Lincoln decided to set up an automated recording station for 30 consecutive nights. Result: 7 successful captures. What was notable was that each time the signal was transmitted, the frequency was accurate down to the millihertz, and the exact timestamp was 2:13:06 a.m.in1 recording. They heard a distorted Morse sequence, but after decoding it using low-frequency voice scanning techniques, a blurry phrase was revealed. Room 47, can't breathe. Under, help. Acoustic experts said the broadcast frequency matched interference patterns from Cold War-era devices, typically used in underground bunkers. In February 2005, a civilian geological survey team used ground-penetrating radar, GPR, to scan the cemetery area. Results showed that, in addition to 112 graves, there was a square-shaped structure buried 3.2 meters deep, about 6 square meters in size, not recorded on any maps. On March 2nd, The team drilled an access point and inserted a camera. They found an old concrete room resembling a wartime bunker containing a broken iron Beta vintage Hallicrafters SX-28 radio, manufactured circa 1940, a wire connected to a homemade battery pack, burned out, a wooden plaque faintly marked, property of R. Kinner, 1961. Civil records showed no one named Kinner was buried there. But when the missing persons list was checked, one Richard Kinner, an Air Force radio engineer, was found to have disappeared in 1963 after leaving Offutt Air Force Base. He was never found. A theory emerged. Richard Kinner had built a personal bunker, possibly for wartime shelter. He may have been injured, trapped, or buried alive due to a ceiling collapse, and tried to send out a distress signal using a homemade radio. However, if that was the case, how could the signal still be transmitted? 40 years later, experts suggested that someone or something had reactivated the old radio, or that residual energy from old semiconductor parts had absorbed natural environmental charge. Several supernatural hypotheses were raised that Kinner's final biological energy, or a trapped soul, had repeated the distress signal like a recording stuck in an infinite loop. In October 2007, the signal ceased completely. No further transmissions were recorded. The bunker was then sealed by order of the Nebraska state government to ensure public safety and avoid public panic. The items found inside were sealed and stored in a military museum archive. The case was classified as an unidentified phenomenon and officially closed in 2008. In June 2012, a private radio station in Montana received strange interference on a civilian frequency. After 23 seconds of static, a clear voice came through. "This is Kinner. Anyone? Copy. I'm still room 47. The signal disappeared immediately. No one could trace its origin. No one could explain why the name Kinner and room 47 had returned. All that is known is that, in the 21st century, among millions of random signals, one message continued to echo the same desperate call from nearly half a century ago. Hesitant face, .o.s. Room. Help. 47. This file has never been officially released in any media outlet. All that remains is a frequency and a voice calling from underground.
You've just heard a true story, or at least the piece of the truth, but what you just heard might still be happening somewhere out there. This is THN Mystery, where every shadow leaves a trace. Let us know your thoughts on the story, or tell us what you want to hear next. See you again, if you still dare to return.